Imagine standing in the middle of a scorching desert, where three gigantic stone mountains have watched the world for more than 4,500 years. They have seen mighty kings rise and fall. They have survived earthquakes, invasions, wars, and even the birth of entire civilizations. But one question still refuses to die. How did people living over 4,000 years ago build structures so enormous that even today's engineers continue to study them? This is not just the story of giant stones. This is the story of ambition, of power, of faith, and of one civilization that believed death was only the beginning. This is the incredible history of the pyramids of Egypt. To understand the pyramids, we must travel back long before the first stone was ever laid. Our journey begins more than 8,000 years ago, around 6,000 BC. At that time, northern Africa looked very different from today. Much of what is now the Sahara Desert was covered with grasslands, lakes, rivers, and wildlife. Early hunters and farmers lived peacefully across this fertile landscape, but nature slowly changed. Around 5000 BC, the climate became hotter and drier. The once green Sahara gradually transformed into a vast desert. Families abandoned their homes and migrated toward one place that never stopped giving life, the Nile River. Stretching over 6,650 kilometers, 4,132 miles, the Nile became the heartbeat of ancient Egypt. Every year, the river flooded its banks, leaving behind rich black soil that was perfect for farming. People planted wheat, barley, vegetables, and flax. Villages became towns. Towns became cities. Without the Nile, there would have been no Egypt. And without Egypt, there would have been no pyramids. If you're enjoying this journey through history, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, we uncover the greatest civilizations and mysteries ever known. By 3500 BC, Egypt had developed into two powerful kingdoms. In the north was Lower Egypt, where the Nile spread into a fertile delta before reaching the Mediterranean Sea. In the south was Upper Egypt, a narrow ribbon of fertile land bordered by desert cliffs. For centuries, these kingdoms competed for power. Then came a remarkable leader. Around 3100 BC, a king known as Narmer, often identified with the legendary Menes, united Upper and Lower Egypt into a single kingdom. Narmer was likely around 30 to 40 years old when he achieved this historic victory. He established one of the world's first unified states and laid the foundation for more than 3,000 years of Egyptian civilization. He also introduced symbols of royal authority, including the double crown representing the unity of both lands. This moment marked the beginning of Egypt's first dynasty. The age of the pharaohs had begun. To the ancient Egyptians, the pharaoh was not just a king. He was believed to be chosen by the gods and responsible for maintaining order, justice, and harmony throughout the land. They believed that when a pharaoh died, his journey was far from over. His spirit would continue into an eternal afterlife, but only if his body was preserved and protected. That belief gave rise to the practice of mummification. At first, kings were buried in simple rectangular tombs called mastabas, built from mud brick. But as Egypt grew richer and more powerful, the pharaohs dreamed of something greater, something that would stand forever, something so magnificent that future generations would never forget their names. That dream would soon change architecture forever. In the next chapter, a brilliant architect named Imhotep would introduce the world's very first pyramid and begin one of humanity's greatest engineering achievements. The year was approximately 2667 BC. Egypt had become one of the richest and most organized kingdoms on earth. Its fertile lands produced abundant crops, trade flourished along the Nile, and the pharaohs commanded thousands of skilled workers. A new ruler had ascended the throne. His name was Pharaoh Djoser, believed to have been around 30 to 35 years old when he became king during Egypt's third dynasty. Like the kings before him, Djoser wanted a magnificent tomb. But he did not want to be remembered as just another ruler. He wanted to leave behind something the world had never seen. Fortunately, he had a genius by his side. His name was Imhotep. Imhotep was much more than an architect. He was a royal advisor, a high priest, an engineer, a physician, a mathematician, and one of the greatest minds in human history. Although his exact age is unknown, Historians believe he was likely in his 40s or early 50s during Djoser's reign. At a time when nearly every royal tomb was built from sun-dried mud bricks, Imhotep imagined something revolutionary. He proposed building with cut limestone, a material far stronger and more durable. Instead of constructing one flat mastaba tomb, he stacked several mastabas of decreasing size on top of one another. The result was unlike anything the ancient world had ever witnessed. It became the Step Pyramid of Saqqara, the world's first pyramid, and the first monumental structure built almost entirely from carved stone. History comes alive when we explore it together. If you're enjoying this documentary, subscribe now and join us as we uncover the greatest mysteries ever built by humanity. Construction began around 2667 BC at Saqqara, the vast royal cemetery located southwest of the ancient capital, Memphis. Thousands of workers, craftsmen, surveyors, quarrymen, and engineers worked together. Contrary to popular myths, most historians believe these workers were paid laborers, not enslaved people. They were organized into skilled teams, received food, shelter, and medical care, and often worked during the annual Nile floods when farming temporarily stopped. Using simple but effective tools made of copper, stone, and wood, they cut enormous limestone blocks from nearby quarries. Each block was dragged on wooden sledges across prepared pathways. Workers poured water on the sand to reduce friction, making it easier to move the heavy stones. Slowly, year after year, the structure grew higher. Eventually, the Step Pyramid reached a height of approximately 62 meters, 203 feet. Around it, Djoser's architects built a vast ceremonial complex covering nearly 15 hectares, 37 acres, enclosed by a massive limestone wall. For the first time in history, an entire royal city of stone had been created for a king's eternal life. To modernize, the Step Pyramid is an architectural masterpiece. To the ancient Egyptians, it was something even more profound. Each ascending level symbolized the pharaoh's journey toward the heavens. They believed that after death, Djoser would climb these symbolic steps and join the gods, especially the sun god Ra, ensuring the continued prosperity of Egypt. The pyramid represented immortality. It was not simply a tomb. It was a bridge between earth and eternity. This belief would shape Egyptian architecture for centuries. The Step Pyramid transformed Egypt forever. Future pharaohs admired its beauty, but they dreamed even bigger. If one king could build a stepped monument reaching the sky, could another create a perfectly smooth pyramid, one that looked like a ray of sunlight frozen in stone? The answer would come with a new pharaoh, a ruler named Sneferu. His bold experiments would lead directly to the greatest pyramid ever constructed, the legendary Great Pyramid of Giza, built for his son, Pharaoh Khufu. And that is where our story goes next. The year was approximately 2613 BC. Egypt had entered the glorious Fourth Dynasty, often called the Golden Age of pyramid building. A new pharaoh sat upon the throne. His name was Sneferu, believed to have been around 35 to 40 years old when he became king. Unlike the rulers before him, Sneferu refused to settle for simply copying the Step Pyramid. He wanted perfection. He dreamed of creating a monument that would symbolize the rays of the sun, a smooth-sided pyramid unlike anything the world had ever seen. But greatness would not come easily. It would be built through failure. Around 2600 BC, construction began at Dashur, south of modern Cairo. The builders carefully laid millions of limestone blocks, raising the pyramid higher and higher. But as the structure climbed, cracks began to appear. The angle of the pyramid, about 54 degrees, was too steep for the foundation to safely support its growing weight. The engineers faced a terrifying choice: continue building and risk the entire monument collapsing, or redesign the pyramid while construction was still underway. They chose the second option. The upper half was completed at a gentler angle of about 43 degrees. The result was extraordinary. Instead of smooth, straight sides, the pyramid suddenly changed direction halfway up. Today it is known as the Bent Pyramid, a permanent reminder that even the greatest civilizations learned through trial and error. Rather than a symbol of failure, it became one of history's earliest engineering lessons. Every stone tells a story. If you're enjoying this documentary, subscribe now and join us as we uncover more of history's greatest mysteries. Your support helps keep these stories alive. Sneferu was not discouraged. Instead, he applied everything he had learned. Around 2595 BC, he ordered the construction of another pyramid at Dashur. This time, every measurement was calculated with greater precision. The foundation was stronger. The slope was carefully planned. The limestone blocks were cut more accurately than ever before. The result was magnificent. The Red Pyramid, named for the reddish color of its limestone, rose to approximately 105 meters, 344 feet. It became the first successful, smooth-sided pyramid in history. For the first time, Egypt had achieved the architectural form that future generations would recognize as a true pyramid. Sneferu had transformed architecture forever, but his greatest legacy was yet to come. His son would attempt something the world had never imagined. Around 2589 BC, Khufu, known to the ancient Greeks as Cheops, became pharaoh of Egypt. Historians estimate he was approximately 30 to 35 years old when he inherited one of the richest kingdoms on earth. He had watched his father build not one, not two, but three magnificent pyramids. Now it was his turn. Khufu wanted a monument unlike anything humanity had ever created. Not merely the tallest building in Egypt, the tallest structure on earth, one that would proclaim his power long after his death. He selected a rocky plateau west of the Nile, a place we now know as Giza. There, one of the greatest construction projects in human history began. Construction likely began around 2580 BC. Thousands of skilled workers arrived at Giza. Stonemasons, engineers, surveyors, carpenters, boat builders, doctors, bakers, cooks. Every person had a role. Nearby, entire workers' villages were built to house and feed the workforce. Fresh bread came from large communal bakeries. Beef, fish, onions, garlic, dates, and beer were supplied daily to sustain the laborers. This was no ordinary construction site. It was a carefully organized city dedicated to one extraordinary mission: to build a monument that would challenge time itself. And as the first massive limestone blocks were set into place, no one could have imagined that more than 4,500 years later, people from every corner of the world would still stand in awe before the Great Pyramid of Giza. As the years passed, the construction site at Giza grew into one of the busiest places on Earth. From sunrise to sunset, thousands of skilled workers labored with remarkable precision. Around 2580 to 2560 BC, under the rule of Pharaoh Khufu, believed to have been in his 30s to 50s during the project, the Great Pyramid slowly rose toward the sky. Modern archaeologists estimate that the pyramid contains approximately 2.3 million limestone and granite blocks. Most limestone blocks weighed 2 to 3 tons, while the massive granite beams used above the king's chamber weighed as much as 60 to 80 tons each. The limestone came mainly from nearby quarries at Giza. The finest white limestone casing stones were transported by boat from Tura across the Nile. The enormous granite blocks traveled nearly 800 kilometers, 500 miles, from the quarries of Aswan in southern Egypt. Every block represented extraordinary planning, teamwork, and determination. One mystery has fascinated historians for centuries. How did ancient Egyptians lift millions of heavy stones without cranes or modern machines? The truth is that no single answer has been proven. The most widely accepted explanation is that workers used carefully designed ramps made from mud brick, limestone chips, and compacted earth. Wooden sledges carried the stones. Teams of workers pulled them with thick ropes. Recent archaeological discoveries in ancient artwork suggest that workers poured water onto the sand in front of the sledges. The damp sand reduced friction, making the heavy stones much easier to move. Surveyors used the stars and simple measuring instruments to align the pyramid with astonishing precision. Even today, the Great Pyramid is aligned almost perfectly with the 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. Its accuracy continues to impress modern engineers. If this incredible journey through ancient Egypt has amazed you, Subscribe now and become part of our growing community of history lovers. There are many more incredible stories waiting to be discovered. Around 2560 BC, after nearly 20 years of construction, the Great Pyramid was finally complete. Originally, it stood about 146.6 meters, 481 feet, tall, making it the tallest human-made structure on Earth. It held that record for almost 3,800 years, until the construction of Lincoln Cathedral in England during the 14th century. The entire pyramid was once covered in highly polished white limestone casing stones. When sunlight struck the surface, the monument shimmered brilliantly across the desert. Some ancient writers claimed it could be seen from many kilometers away, glowing like a giant jewel beneath the Egyptian sun. Inside, hidden passages led to the king's chamber, the queen's chamber, and the mysterious grand gallery, an engineering masterpiece unlike anything built before. Khufu believed this monument would preserve his name forever. More than 4,500 years later, it has. After Khufu's death around 2566 BC, the throne passed to his son Khafre, who was likely in his 30s when he became pharaoh. Khafre admired his father's achievement, but instead of building a larger pyramid, he focused on creating a more magnificent royal complex. Around 2570 to 2540 BC, he constructed the Second Pyramid of Giza. Although slightly shorter than Khufu's pyramid, it was built on higher ground, making it appear almost as tall from a distance. Near his pyramid, Khafre commissioned one of the world's most iconic monuments, a colossal guardian carved directly from natural limestone bedrock, the Great Sphinx. Stretching approximately 73 meters, 240 feet long, and standing 20 meters, 66 feet high, the Great Sphinx has guarded the Giza Plateau for more than 4 millennia. With the body of a lion and the head of a king, believed by many scholars to represent Pharaoh Khafre, it symbolized strength, wisdom, and royal authority. Over thousands of years, desert sands repeatedly buried much of the Sphinx, leaving only its head visible until major excavations uncovered the rest. Its missing nose has inspired countless legends, but historians still debate exactly how it was lost. Today, the Sphinx remains one of the world's greatest archaeological mysteries, silently watching over the pyramids just as it has for thousands of years. And yet, the story of Giza was not over. One final pyramid still remained to be built, and the centuries ahead would bring tomb robbers, forgotten chambers, remarkable discoveries, and a global fascination that continues into 2026. After the reign of Pharaoh Khafre, another king inherited the throne. His name was Pharaoh Menkaure, who likely became king around 2530 BC at approximately 30 to 40 years of age. Unlike his father and grandfather, Menkaure chose to build a smaller pyramid. Construction began around 2532 BC on the Giza Plateau. Standing about 65 meters, 213 feet high when completed, it was far shorter than the pyramids of Khufu and Khafre, yet it was no less beautiful. The lower sections were covered with fine red granite from Aswan, while the upper parts were finished with polished white limestone. Together, the three pyramids formed one of the most recognizable skylines in human history. To the ancient Egyptians, these monuments were not simply tombs, they were eternal stairways to the heavens. As centuries passed, Egypt changed. The wealth and power of the pharaohs gradually declined. By around 2181 BC, during the end of the Old Kingdom, the central government weakened. Regional rulers gained influence, resources became limited, and the enormous cost of pyramid construction could no longer be sustained. Later kings chose to build smaller pyramids or hidden rock-cut tombs, especially in places like the Valley of the Kings, where they hoped their burials would be safer from thieves. The age of building giant pyramids had come to an end, but their story was far from over. If you've enjoyed this journey through one of history's greatest wonders, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who loves history. Your support helps us bring more incredible stories from the ancients world to life. Despite their massive size, the pyramids could not fully protect the treasures hidden inside. Over the centuries, many tomb robbers broke into royal burial chambers. Gold, jewelry, Precious furniture, statues, and ceremonial objects were stolen long before modern archaeologists arrived. Even the smooth white limestone casing stones that once covered the Great Pyramid were removed over time, especially during the medieval period, and reused in the construction of buildings and mosques in Cairo. Today, the Great Pyramid appears rough and stepped, but in ancient times it gleamed brilliantly under the Egyptian sun. Although many treasures disappeared forever, the monuments themselves survived, and they still had many secrets left to reveal. Beginning in the 18th and 19th centuries, explorers, scholars, and archaeologists from Egypt and around the world turned their attention to Giza. Careful excavations uncovered workers' villages, bakeries, cemeteries, tools, and written evidence showing that the pyramids were built by organized, skilled laborers, not armies of chained slaves, as popular myths once claimed. In the 20th and 21st centuries, scientists introduced new technologies: laser scanning, ground-penetrating radar, 3D mapping, infrared imaging. These methods revealed hidden spaces and provided fresh clues about how the pyramids were designed and constructed. Even today, researchers continue to investigate unexplored chambers and passages. More than 4,500 years after they were built, the pyramids still refuse to give up all their secrets. Today, in 2026, the pyramids of Giza remain the only surviving wonder of the ancient world. Every year, millions of visitors from across the globe travel to Egypt to stand before these extraordinary monuments. Archaeologists continue to study the site, while Egyptian authorities and international experts work together to preserve the pyramids from erosion, pollution, urban expansion, and the effects of climate. The pyramids are no longer just symbols of ancient Egypt. They are symbols of human achievement, proof that determination, planning, cooperation, and vision can create something that outlives generations. More than 45 centuries have passed. Empires have risen, empires have fallen, languages have changed, borders have shifted, kings and conquerors have disappeared into history. Yet the pyramids still stand, silent, majestic, unshaken. They remind us that true greatness is not measured by how loudly a person speaks, but by what they leave behind for the future. The ancient builders of Egypt never imagined cameras, airplanes, satellites, or the internet. But they believed their work would endure, and they were right. Perhaps the greatest lesson of the pyramids is this: dream so boldly, build so faithfully, and live with such purpose that your legacy stands long after your footsteps have faded. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe for more epic journeys through history. Until next time, keep exploring the stories that shaped our world.